I'm U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville, and this is the Elephant in the Room.
Welcome to the Elephant in the Room. I'm your host, Cyrus Pearson, joined as always by my co-host, Christy Lewis. Christy, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Cyrus.
Our guest today is U.S. Senator and Coach Tommy Tuberville from the great state of Alabama. Christy, break down his accomplishments a little.
All right. He spent 40 years in higher education as a college football coach. He has won 6 Coach of the Year awards. He led the Auburn Tigers to 5 Western Division titles and 1 SEC championship. And he has more rings than Thanos, that guy from the Marvel movies.
It's very impressive. You'll hear about it shortly. Let's get into the podcast. Coach, thanks for joining us here on the Elephant in the Room. What do you like people to call you? Coach, Senator?
Oh, definitely Coach, because there's 100 senators. So if you say senator, they all turn around, but if you say coach, only one of us turns around. So, and I earned that. Hey, 40 years of coaching, dealing with knuckleheads that are 18, 19, 20-year-olds. I'm sticking with it.
Absolutely. And even after 40 years, we mentioned your coaching accomplishments in our intro, but your athletic insights are still intact. Let me tell a little story and talk March Madness and the men's college basketball tournament. We were waiting for you the other day to come up and film something. We were watching Furman, a number 13 seed. Keep in mind, number 13 seeds are 31 out of 143 attempts all time for winning. Playing Virginia, the number 4 seed. Furman went up by 1. Virginia put up a last-second shot to try to win, and as the buzzer went off and the ball was coming back down the court, you rounded the hallway saying, I picked Furman, who won. How did you pick Furman?
You know, I do it a little different. I don't look at really as much athletic ability. When you get into a tournament like that, especially at the end of a long year, you look at age of players. How old are they? Experience. They might not be quite as athletic, but they're older. They know how to handle pressure. They know how to handle, adversity. You get a bunch of young kids that are very athletic. For instance, Kentucky. They go out every year and they sign 5 new players because the ones that they signed the year before are so athletic. They go to the NBA. They never have a real experienced older team. So that's just kind of my experience of picking my bracket.
Wow.
And I looked at Furman going, man, these guys are all seniors and been around and they know how to handle it, and they won.
That is some great insight.
Now let's don't talk about the rest of my bracket.
Let's talk about how you got into sports and coaching, which you have become extremely successful at. A coaching resume many people wish they had. But I imagine you probably started off actually playing sports and the desire to coach came later. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Whatever you do when you're growing up with your peers is what, number one, it makes it fun, and you continue that on. For instance, my brother, who's 2 years older, is totally different. He's a songwriter. He's played the guitar. He can play any instrument. Every day he plays some kind of music, but that's what he grew up doing. Well, I went the athletic route and stayed with it, played all sports in high school, ended up playing college football. And somebody asked me one time, what is a coach? A coach is a person that's been in sports and never wants to grow up. I mean, you want to stay young like the players that you've been around, and all of a sudden you have no eligibility left, but you look back, hey, I want to stay with them. I want to win with them. I want to train with them. I want to accomplish something. And I've always been very competitive, and you have to be competitive to be a coach. So that's pretty much what happened, and I fell into coaching, but you have to be lucky. It's like anything else. I got a break at one time, through my coaching career.
Sure.
Then that catapulted me up to being a college football head coach.
Let's get back to your coaching, but let me ask a selfish question because you seem so relatable as an athlete in that respect. And you played football, and you played
Football,
golf.
Basketball, baseball, track.
Just an all-around athlete.
If I had a ball, I usually did it other than track. And then I, played. I'm an avid golfer now, play golf in college. And that's something you can do on your own. I mean, you don't have to have somebody else to play with, like tennis or basketball. I guess you can just shoot, but in golf you can compete against yourself because that's what you do.
I used to play a lot of sports. I was fortunate enough not to lose a lot, but the victories kind of blur together for me. But those losses, those moments that caused the losses, they stay with you, at least me. I'm wondering, based on your big game experience and all the wins you've had, does that change and it's just one big glowing feeling of happiness and success, or are there losses and moments you still think about?
Oh, yeah, there's several losses, and the losses are harder to overcome than the wins are winning.
Yes.
if that makes any sense.
That's what I'm saying.
And I got to the point, and one reason I retired is at a fairly young age of around 60 and coaching. I've got buddies that are a little older than me, and they're still coaching, and I don't know how they do it, but it got to the point for me, I couldn't accept losing, And so therefore what I didn't play to win, I played not to lose. And you can't do that. You always have to play to win. You have to put everything into winning and not even think about losing. And I've had some very disappointing losses. Last play of the game, Hail Marys, field goals. Now I've had a lot of wins too,
Right.
but for some reason those real close losses stick to you even more than the wins.
Coach, I feel you.
When you watch movies, I grew up playing a lot of sports myself, and when you watch movies, one of the things they capture about any competitive sports movie is they'll capture the family of a team and the magic of sports, the magic of you go into the locker room and it's halfway through the game and you gotta rally, you gotta come back, you gotta win. And so I love a good motivational speech, of any movie, and then they come back and sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. My favorite personally is Miracle.
Awesome. Yeah.
What is there a favorite movie sports talk that you think back on? Some people like Rudy. Some people like Remember the Titans.
Oh yeah, I love Rudy. I love because he's an underdog. That was kind of me growing up. I wasn't very athletic, and you wasn't going to beat me. Now you might beat me in the end, but you knew you were in a fight. For either position or in a game. And you know how that is. I mean, you're going to push yourself to the limit, and you're going to train to the limit. My favorite movie is The Blind Side because I'm in The Blind Side.
I was going to say, you're in that one, yeah.
I was in the movie, and I enjoyed watching that movie being made. And I was never been in one before, and how organized they were and how they put it all together. And, you'd have 10 cameras on you at one time, and how they select a different camera angle. It's amazing. But, I love good sports movies, but again, I love the underdog. Hoosiers is a great movie.
Loved that growing up.
Oh yeah,
Used to watch it every
great
time
movie.
before playing a big game.
Oh yeah.
As a coach, it's more than just having your team win. I mean, the other thing is you're a mentor for these players. You're helping them. They have to. Performance is so much of a mental game too, right?
Right.
When you're looking at your team, what do you look for in the athletes you select, and then what do you look to instill in those athletes too?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, you're really not a mentor when you're a coach in high school and college. And I'm not talking about professional sports. You're
Sure.
actually their father. Because they're away from home for the first time. They're having to make decisions for the first time ever on their own. They have to wash their own clothes. They have to be on time. And so who's to rein them in if they're breaking those rules? Mm-hmm. Well, it's dad. And who's dad? The head coach. And so I love that part of it because, so I raised thousands of kids over my coaching career. And I lost some of them, in terms of not making it through the hard times. Let me tell you something. When you play college sports, it's the only time really you have two full-time jobs in your life because college athletics is full-time. The training, all the things that go with it, the film study, 7 days a week, and then after that, then you got to go to school like everybody else.
Right.
And it is hard. So if you make it through it, I tell my buddies that are in the business world, hire an athlete. If they have made it successfully through what I know that all of them go through, they'll be successful in anything that you do. But that was the best thing to me about coaching is being close to the players, but also knowing you can put your finger on them and they would listen to you because if you took playing time away from them, everything else is, it's just, it doesn't mean much to them.
Right.
You take playing time away from them, they'll listen to you. And so I really enjoyed the aspect of being able to make a difference in athletes' lives.
You went from coaching, was it high school girls basketball to coaching these just incredible college football teams. How different or how similar were those two experiences?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm writing my book right now, and there'll be an entire chapter on, now, my first year out of I'm 22, and I'm coaching, it was junior girls basketball. I played basketball, but back then in Arkansas before Title IX, it was 3-on-3. You had three girls and one guards, and and 3.
Right.
It was 6 playing at one time on a team. Very different. And so, but just dealing with the everyday problems with 12, 13, 14-year-old girls. And him, I'm out of college. I did that because when I was assistant football coach, but I also had to coach other and teach classes, and it was it was every day something different with those girls. But it was great. A lot of them now. I still keep with those 2 years of coaching at junior girls team. I still keep up with some of them. One of them, matter of fact, ended up playing pretty good. Ended up going to the University of Arkansas, playing basketball, and met a guy and married him. And it's Stephen Jones. Owns the Dallas Cowboys.
Wow.
He's president of the Dallas Cowboys, and so I see her every once in a while when I go to Dallas games. But a lot of good times with those girls. I tell you, they would compete. The one thing about it, you say, well, it's girls basketball. It doesn't make any difference.
It's a competition.
It's
It's like Ted Lasso. He's over there.
and they don't play to
soccer.
lose, and they'll fight you at the end if they need to do that to win the game.
Let's talk about some of those breaks, just because we could talk about just one aspect of your life probably for an hour. But how did you get to coach that team? And then you talked about your breaks earlier. One of your big ones is going to Miami.
Yeah, well, the big thing, and I tell kids in life, is put yourself in a position where you know more people. Your people are the ones that's going to help you move up. And when I got into it, I coached girls basketball, as we just talked about, and then I coached high school, and then I had a recruiting coach come by one day and said, listen, I want to get in college. How do I do that? And he used to explain it to me, and I started going to clinics and meeting people, then ended up getting on as a graduate assistant at a small school in Arkansas. I met Jimmy Johnson going through clinics where he was coaching at Oklahoma State, got to know him pretty well. And then when he went to Miami, he called me. He says, you are the type of guy I need at University of Miami. And so Jimmy hired me there, and we went, and I never lost a game at home in the 9 years I was at University of Miami. We never
Very
lost
impressive.
a game.
Very
Won 4
impressive.
national championships. It was an unbelievable experience. I coached guys like Warren Sapp, Michael Irving. Most of the kids played in the NFL. I coached Dwayne Johnson, who's a rock.
Yep.
I've got a picture of me just chewing him out on the sideline. And every time I see him on TV, both my boys go, Dad, you chewed him out. And I said, yeah, I did. Several times.
Do you get asked about that a lot? I mean, that's
Yeah. The thing about Dwayne, when they all got there, I was defensive coordinator when he came, about 90. And I'd bring them all in. Hey, what are you going to do 10 years from now? You're going to play football. And he said, Coach, I'm going to be a wrestler. I said, a wrestler? What do you want to be a wrestler for? He said, well, his grandfather had been in it.
Uh-huh.
And he was a big kid. He was from Philadelphia, and came from a good family. And I said, well, Dwayne, we're playing football here now. He said, Coach, I'm going to train, and wrestlers train even more than football players. And every day after practice, he'd come in, and you'd see him over there lifting weights and doing things extra. I'm thinking, man, this he's got a chance. Well, and he was a good football player. Wasn't really good enough to play a lot in the NFL.
Uh-huh.
And then one day I was at home. A few years later, got my first head coaching job at University of Mississippi, Ole Miss. And I'm watching television, flipping through channels. I got a little, about 1-year-old. He's running around wanting to watch Barney, the Purple Dragon.
Yeah.
And I'm flipping through trying to find the Purple Dragon. All of a sudden, I championship wrestling. And I thought I recognized this guy. And sure enough, they called him a rock. I said, well, hell, that's Dwayne. He made it. And, man, he made it. He really made it well in
big
that.
time.
And now, of course, he's one of the top actors in the world.
Oh, yeah, he's a huge draw. I mean, I would imagine that's what, a lot of our audience is younger, so they're very familiar with The Rock.
Oh, yeah. And you're talking about an intelligent person. People talk about athletes and, maybe a dumb jock or whatever. Not this guy. I mean, he'd have been successful in a fast food restaurant, because of his work ethic. You can't tell me I can't do it, and I'm going to get it done. And, again, he started a lot of different businesses. I think he's in the vodka business and several other things.
Oh, yeah,
Under Armour.
businessman,
He's in all kinds of
actor.
stuff. ESPN, yeah. He's marketable.
So after Ole Miss, you went to Auburn. You did amazing there. What was that? Did you ever just sit back and be like, wow, look how far I've come?
Oh, did I? There'd be times I'd be in stadiums before a game looking around going, how in the world did I get here? You know, and everybody's looking at me. And, of course, at Auburn, you have what's the Iron Bowl. The Iron Bowl is Auburn playing Alabama. And, I mean, it's
Big
really not a
rivalry.
football game. It's a war. Because
Okay.
they talk about it 365 days. We had no pro sports. And so it was everybody cling to that in the state. Yeah. And there's no riding the fence. You're either one or the other. And I was fortunate. I won 6 in a row at Auburn and won 7 out of 10. And then Nick Saban came and stopped that party. But but it was it was, you know, raised my 2 boys there. Both of them ended up graduating at Auburn. And
How'd it go over when they said they wanted to go to Alabama?
no, they didn't. No, that wasn't going to happen. But they,
That
you know,
misinformation.
actually, it could. I wouldn't have cared. You know, I just want them to be happy but go somewhere and get a good degree, because some of these places you can't get the degree that you want.
Right.
It's just not going. It's not going to help you. One now works for Goldman Sachs in New York, and the other one's in cybersecurity. That one's 29, and the other in Troy's 26, and he's works cybersecurity and helped build the as we speak the hypersonic missile.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
So, yeah, and so talking about different. I mean, you got one in finance and one in cyber, and if they were totally that way, you know, growing up.
Wow, it's like you and your brother. And I got to say,
Exactly.
I've listened to some of your brother's music. Actually, really good music.
Yeah,
Really good music.
yeah,
And if you
he's-
squint your eyes just right, it looks like an alternate universe Tommy Tuberville playing a guitar there.
He's talented, but it's not. And he got it. It wasn't from sitting around and watching television, because if it had anything to do with a guitar or a banjo or a drum or a piano, I mean, he can do it all. But that's what he loved doing. He's been successful doing it.
Last subject, we were talking about the Iron Bowl. I have to ask you, and I'm sure you've answered this a ton of times, and I don't know if it's a touchy subject, but you and Nick Saban, the coach of Alabama, what's your relationship like?
Oh, very close. Nick and I have known each other. As a matter of fact, and again, this will be in my book, but I'd just gone to Auburn for 1 year. I'd left Ole Miss, and they were mad at me because, you know, normally if you leave them, they mad at you, but if they fire you, they're not mad at you. But I left them, and I took the job at Auburn. Why would you go there? But I had a lot of great friends there. So I go to Auburn, and so I'm there 1 year, and I get a call one night from the president of LSU. I'd beaten them 3 years in a row, and 2 at Ole Miss, and I beat them that year, my first year at Auburn, and asked if I was interested in the job at LSU. My wife goes, now, this is the same conference, you know. You already got Ole Miss mad at you. Now, we leave here, Auburn's going to be mad at you. And so, you know, they courted us for about 2 weeks, and finally I said, listen, I just can't do it. And my agent was going, well, you got to make a decision. I said, I just told you. I remember this Thanksgiving Day, and I'm not going to do it. And he goes, well, I got somebody that wants a job. I said, who? It's Nick Saban. Really? And he says, he's at Michigan State. I said, it'd be a good job for Nick. And I've known him for a while, and he'd been in pro ball. He tried to hire me in pro ball when he was with Belichick at Cleveland, and I was at Miami. But that being said, I hung up the phone. It wasn't 5 minutes. It rang. Nick Saban, Tommy, why do you? And this is coaches do this. Now there's got to be something wrong. I know Auburn's good, but LSU, you're not. Why? Tell me, is there something I don't know? I said, no, you'd fit in great, Nick. And if I'd been there 5 years, I might be going. But I just can't do this back to back. So, good friend, he goes there and obviously does great. And
Yeah,
you know, if I'd
obviously.
have made a different decision, who would have known?
Yeah,
you know?
who knows?
Yeah.
These are big schools, and I do want to get on to talking some of this stuff that we're doing up here in Washington, but you keep bringing up stuff, and I can't get off of it. As a successful coach, how many, and I don't know if you're speaking on behalf of everybody else or just yourself, how often do you get approached to try to be pulled to another school? I mean, is every coach getting calls out there? We got an opening. I know you're at this big program, but you got to come over here.
Yeah, well, you got to remember, the people that do the hiring are athletic directors, and most of them are business people. They don't know coaches. You know, that's the reason I'm more of a, you know, if I was every president, I tell that, listen, if you hire an athletic, hire somebody that's been in the sport. You know, you can always hire business people to help them manage your budget and stuff, but the main thing of an athletic director is hiring people and then manage them. Athletic directors that know nothing about basketball or football can't manage a coach that they're paying $7-8 million a year. I mean, it's really gotten out of hand. But that being said, it's it's unique of how somebody gets hired. Yeah, I was offered jobs all the time for different places, and I was more of, my kids growing up, I tried to keep them instead of moving school to school. But we left Auburn and went to Texas Tech and had a great time. Only there 3 years, and then we left. I took over for Mike Leach, and it was hard. That was hard because Mike had done a good job. And then I went to Cincinnati, and then I said, enough's enough. And so got in ESPN for a few years.
Well, that sound you didn't hear because we put it in post-production is halftime. So we've made you wait long enough, Coach. We know you like cookies, and so we decided, actually Carly in our office, to do a Coach's Cookie Challenge.
This is awesome.
We're going to see what you think the best cookie is. And for the listeners who can't taste, smell, or see, we have 4 cookies in front of us.
You got to look at these now.
Now, what do you look? Are you a big cookie fan?
I'm a big-time cookie fan.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we all like sugar.
Yeah,
but I like something simple.
Okay.
That's a little different sometimes. And, of course, you always look at nutrition values. There's not much nutrition for you in these other than the fact that it's going to make you feel better and make you and keep you on your toes for a few hours because of the high you get off of sugar. But, yeah, these are interesting. You got an oatmeal chocolate chip, which if you notice, the top 2 have oatmeal in them, and somebody around here has understood that I like oatmeal in a cookie. And then the bottom one there is the pretzel snickerdoodle, and I love snickerdoodles.
Salted caramel pretzel snickerdoodle.
And the one on the right there's a white chocolate chip. But my favorite, before even tasting these, is the no cook, no bake oatmeal chocolate.
And that's
going at the top.
All right, it's a big. I know you can't see it at home or in the car, but it looks very chocolatey, like a bird's nest.
Yeah, and it's like fudge.
Okay.
But it's got real oatmeal in it. And I don't know. I've always, when I was growing up, my mom would make more of these than anything else. And
really,
I think my brother and sister, they liked other cookies better, so there was more of these to eat, and I think so there was more of a portion for me, so to speak. But without even tasting it, I can tell you those. Do you want to taste them? Or
yeah, I want you to taste them, and you have to tell us which one is the best. I'll do play-by-play here.
Because no matter how you cook them, the cook has to put their special recipe to
Right.
it.
So Coach broke the chocolate chip, oatmeal chocolate chip in half.
Very good.
Put half in his mouth. Very good. Okay.
Well, that's very good.
Moving on to these.
Wait a minute now.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we'll go for it.
Yeah.
Well, I got to talk.
Sure.
You tried the, no, you tried that one first.
Christy tried to sneak ahead and go for the obvious favorite. Go ahead.
See what you think. You know how to get a big bite. And then I'm tasting the salted, and I love salt in any kind of food, and even something with sugar in it. Salted caramel pretzel snickerdoodle. That's pretty interesting.
That's a lot in that.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's your impression of that?
Yeah, very good. Very good. I like the salt taste to it. And most snickerdoodles I've ever had, though, do not have salt in them. But those are very good. Yeah. I thought you were going to talk. You're overeating now.
Yeah, I was going to try that. I'll go ahead. So
I love white chocolate. So the next one is white chocolate chip. Mm-hmm. It's very good.
Well, I don't think I have enough to say about cookies as you do. I mean, you really know your cookies.
So are you looking for, do you like a chewier cookie, or are you a crispy cookie guy?
I'm more crispy. Mm-hmm. You know, I like the
I almost snuck a Chips Ahoy in here.
Oh, you did? Oh, those are awesome. And one of the round ones the Girl Scouts sell, it's got hole in it, but it's got coconut on it.
Oh, we call them Samoas in our area.
That's it.
I don't know what they're called.
That's it. Now, I didn't try the new ones they came out with this year. They were $100 a box, so I didn't try those. But the last one here, the non-bake. In other words, what they do with this is they make the chocolate like a fudge, and then you pour oatmeal in it.
So he's got the oatmeal no bake.
Yeah. And, you know, it's a no bake. And it's basically, fudge is my favorite candy. So you take basically a fudge and put oatmeal in it, and you call it a cookie.
Let me check who's done what here.
You gotta try it.
What do you think, Coach?
Oh, it's awesome.
Is that the winner right there? The oatmeal no bake?
Oh wow, that is good.
And it's chewy.
It's delicious.
I like that it's not too sweet. You know,
It's not too sweet, but I'm more of a chocolate person than an overall just cookie,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so I'll take chocolate over anything, and then you put oatmeal in it. It's just
That's
a
a health food.
double whammy for
Winner,
me.
winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the winner is Tiffany, who is a well-known baker in our office. And I will mention the other entrants at the end of the show. But Tiffany's oatmeal no bake won the coach's challenge. Well, thanks for trying that, Coach.
That's very good. It's a good halftime snack.
Hey, you always grab something when you leave here, and it's a Laffy Taffy, and I think it is one of the funnest bits of trivia about somebody. What flavor do you grab?
Banana.
Really?
I love banana toffee. Basically, I'm a saltwater taffy guy, and I think I got hooked on that one as a kid because we'd go to the beach. a
Oh,
lot.
yeah. Oh, yeah,
and,
yeah.
And I thought they made the taffy out of salt water, because there's salt water
They
in the
don't?
ocean.
They don't?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, they put salt in it, but I'm thinking, man, this is, it was, at first it was hard to taste it because you think that, man, this is ocean water. And I swim in that all the time, but I love Laffy Taffy. Now I always get 3 or 4 after I do a press conference here on every Wednesday and take them back and kind of snack on them all day long.
We make sure we're stocked up for you.
Oh, you do. It's usually fun. Y'all know about it if there's not any. Somebody got them all one time before I got in here, and that didn't go over too well.
Let's talk about, we've talked about coaching. We're not done with athletics, but the foray into politics. What made you want to get into politics, and in particular such a large stage as the U.S. Senate?
Well, coaching is education, okay? And I had traveled. I've been in every state in the country, including America Samoa, Hawaii, Alaska, recruiting players. Okay, I've been in high schools everywhere. And I've seen over the last 10 or 15 years how our education is nosediving. And the key to our success for 248 years of our great country is because of a lot of things. But number one is education, because people were able to get a good education, learn to read, write, do basic things to be able to get a job, because this country was built on the backs of a lot of hardworking people. And I saw for the last 15 years how we're nosediving. We're not teaching things in the classroom that makes kids better. We don't teach them the basics. Half the kids in this country, when they get out now, especially in the big cities, half of them can't read their diploma when they graduate. Now,
We're talking high school here?
High school.
Yeah.
In high school. They cannot read their diploma. And if you can't read in our country, you can't survive. You could make a living, but you're not going to be able to be as successful as you want to be. And I'll never forget it. When I'd bring all of my players in every year, 25 I'd sign for football. And I'd set them all down, and we would give them reading, writing, math, and a history test, and just kind of find out the level that they were on. Well, for years there, most of them were pretty proficient in most everything. Every once in a while, you'd have 1 or 2 that were maybe 9th or 10th grade reading level. And so we'd get them to the point where we wouldn't put them in an English class in college. You fail a class as an athlete in college, it's tough to regain ground because you got to keep your eligibility. Well, what happened is I brought a kid in one time, we tested him, he wasn't 3rd grade. He couldn't read.
Wow.
Yeah. And how in the world did he get a degree? Well, out of my pocket and some of the other coaches' pocket and some of the money that we took out of the athletic, we gave him reading lessons before I put him in any real tough class. It took him about a year to get to 7th, 8th grade reading level. It took 2 years to get him to high school reading level where we could actually put him in a class. And I'll never forget sitting around one day and talking to him, always with a smile on his face because he was appreciative of what we did for him. And he was able to read. And I said, well, what's the best thing about reading? He said, Coach, for years I'd go out with my friends and they'd hand us a menu and I'd order a hamburger because I couldn't read the menu.
Wow.
You brings tears to your eyes, to think about.
Yep.
Here's a kid that had no chance. All his buddies, they're looking and reading and ordering this. He said, I got so sick of eating hamburgers. He said, I might not ever eat another one again. But it just goes to show you the importance, not just to success, but pride of somebody to be able to keep up. Mm-hmm. So that being said, I'm seeing our education just nosedive. And I feel bad for our kids nowadays. I really do, because we've got teachers that don't push kids. We have no respect in the schools. We have bad teachers that are getting in that you can't let go because of teacher unions. We've dropped the curriculum in a lot of things. We're teaching a lot of things that kids don't need to be taught. They need to be taught how to read and write and do math. And if you can't do those, you can't survive. Stay away from all this CRT and all these things that absolutely mean nothing until they get out. And then if they want to learn it and at a different age, then fine. But you got to get your basics through kindergarten, grade school, junior high, and high school. After that point, you're pretty much on your own.
Let's. I could dig into that a little bit, but
We could talk about that for hours.
well, let me ask then. Do you think that we've hit a point where we've kind of hit the bottom and are kind of moving back up, or are we still in a bad trajectory, or what can we do?
Oh, we're in a terrible trajectory. And again, I've been out 6 years or so, and by the time I got out, I mean, we would have half those kids out of 25, like I told you, half of them that were below fifth grade reading level, and we had to spend even more money. I started spending $300,000 or $400,000 a year on tutors to get them to the point, athletes to a point where they could survive in the classroom and keep their eligibility. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, we have wasted so much money in our education program. If I had my wish list today, being a United States Senator, and I had a magic wand, I'd close the Department of Education down, send the education back to the states, and tell them, listen, we'll help you as long as you are sending good results back to the federal government. If you don't get any federal money. You pay for it. We have got to start competing, and competing for this money instead of just flushing money out there. And it goes to the teachers' unions, they give it to politicians. I mean, we're in a bad cycle as we speak.
I got to say, I looked up the literacy rates a couple weeks ago, and they were astounding. I couldn't believe that's what we had here in the U.S., and I don't know that, throwing a bunch of money at it is really even going to fix it.
No, it's about people are the answer. And this country survived because the people went to work. People were hungry. People are not hungry anymore. When my parents were growing up, my dad had 3 or 4 jobs. My mom worked. You get home, you never, they weren't there. And, and basically my mom's deal, if you weren't home by 6 o'clock and dinner was ready, and if you wasn't there at 6, you don't eat.
Right.
You better eat at your buddy's house. That's the way it was, because they worked and they were tired. And nowadays, kids are, and it's our fault. We've given this generation more and more. I mean, look at this phone we got. The phone, the computers, and everything that they can do, cars. It's just absolutely amazing. And we spend more time up here in the Senate, trying to evaluate things like TikTok and social media and things that we can, I would say, take away other than add. And we probably need to be doing that.
Let's talk, because, we do unfortunately have a limited amount of time. Let's say we had a kid that did go to college from an unfortunate circumstance. Not unfortunate, but, didn't have a lot of money. Right. A lot of these kids aren't going to go on to play professional, but let's shift to something in a role as U.S. Senator. One of the things you can affect. The question going around for a long time, especially with as much money as some schools are taking in from athletics, should college athletes be paid?
Sure.
Now we've got NIL, name, image, likeness. Can you talk about that a little bit?
You're talking to the guy that lived it and breathed it for years, and I was always for giving them as much money as possible. Here's the deal, though.
Okay.
My first 20 years of coaching, there wasn't a lot of money in it. I made $80,000.
Which is quite a different story from now.
The facilities weren't as good. There wasn't as much money. It didn't cost as much money to go to college. But you look at it now. The TV contracts, for instance, the SEC and the Big Ten just signed a TV contract. And probably just 10 years ago, every school in the conference from TV would probably get 15, 18 million. That's for all sports. This is 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And it'd go in the big budget. Now, the budgets are high, because you got to pay for all sports that don't bring in money, Olympic sports, a lot of women's sports, a lot of the men's sports bring in very, very little money. But starting next year, the SEC and the Big Ten, each school will get upwards close to $80, $90, $100 million. Each school now.
Wow.
Yeah. And so a lot of money involved. ESPN has driven the price up. People like sports, and it's programming. They can sell advertising for it. So, yes, I am for players making money. Now, Joe Manchin and I are doing a bill as we speak for the NIL, and we want them, as it's going right now with this, when the Supreme Court said a couple of years ago, players can make money off their name, image, and likeness. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Now, I'm not good with kids transferring anytime they want just to make another buck, which they're doing.
Okay.
I'm not for coaches going out and say, you come to our school, we give you $1 million, and they get there and they don't get the $1 million, which has happened. I am for players having some kind of health care after they leave, because it is a physical sport, whether it's basketball, soccer, the most injured sport in college athletics. You know what it is?
I don't.
Women's gymnastics.
Really?
Women's gymnastics. There's more girls that get beat up and banged up and fall on their head. And so in this provision, which we're going to take money from a lot of the colleges, is to put into a fund to pay for at least 10 years of cognitive and
very nice.
And bone problems and knee problems and those kind of things. But we've got to do that. But yes, most of these kids will never make a dime playing anything professionally, but I'm for them making some money. But I'm for all of them making a little bit of money. Now, right now, the way they've got it set up, you've only got a handful of them making money, and it's really not fair to quarterback making, $1 million and the two guys on each side of him and the guy snapping the ball not making anything. And to me, that's not good for our country.
Right.
So this might be a silly question, but I don't know if you've ever watched Hard Knocks on HBO.
Oh, yeah.
You see the players making the transition from college to the NFL. And you see these players that, they worked so hard during college and they were great players. And they either make the cut, or then we know a lot of NFL players will only play 2 or 3 years. And they've made all this money. They had a huge signing bonus, and then they go broke, after they're done, and their bodies are beat up. And it just seems like here are these guys that were on top of the world and being paid so well, and then the ground's from under their feet, and you sort of wonder about their welfare after their sports days are over. Do you think there should be anything done to prepare these players better, or is that already in place and we don't see it, or how do you think about that?
Well, they're
Is that a silly word?
they're taking advantage of. That.
Yeah.
A lot of these agents take advantage of them. They trust some of their friends to be their agents, and they'll make $15 million in 2 years, and they'll look up and there's no money left because they've got an entourage around them that they're paying this friend that doesn't have a job to carry his luggage, or you're a business within yourself, and even a lot of people can't handle that. The good thing about it, NFL's got a great retirement. Now you got to make it 5 years, as you talked about. An average lifespan of a running back in the NFL is 3 to 4 years. So they don't make that because they get the heck beat out of them. And you see these sports, these guys are big and fast. Everybody.
They look like they're released from prison and out to just take it out.
Exactly. So, there's got to be a life after for about 90% of them that they're not going to have a lot of money. So they've got to prepare for that, and they really. And I've talked to commissioner of the NFL about it, and they've set up programs for them, but you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Right.
You can try to help them, but a lot of them don't want help.
Coach, your staff needs to get you off, but I need to ask you about one more thing, so I'm going to pick this. You recently led a Codell to Panama. This is completely unsports related. I mean, you do a lot of stuff up here. Can you just quickly tell us what that was about and how that went?
Well, we live in a dangerous world. Okay, China's our biggest adversary. We got Ukraine and Russia fighting. We're right in the middle of it. The Iranians, they're fighting everybody in the Middle East, Syria. I mean, we got all kind of problems. But the problem we're having is, of course, we're having a lot of problems within our country, but we're also, our neighbors, a lot of them are selling out to China. Panama Canal is so important to us and our allies because 60, 70, 80% of what we make in this country goes through that Panama Canal when it leaves here. And if we're bringing in supplies for us, the supply chain, it's got to come the other way. Well, China's getting their hands on everything. So I went to Panama and talked with the officials down there, the people that are control of the things, and just let them know, hey, we're here to help you. Don't sell everything to China. We want to be a part of your community, your country. You're our neighbor. China's not your neighbor. They're not your friend. You know, they want to control you. And we're making a lot of progress there. But there's other countries like Colombia, Mexico. They're right on our border now. And don't think China's not trying to move in there. So, heck, we sold 385,000 acres of farmland to China here in our country. And so they're not just trying to move to our neighbors, they're trying to take us over. So, yeah, I try to do as much relationship building as I possibly can. I've been around the world 3 times since I've had this job in 2 years, getting ready to go to another couple of countries here in a couple of weeks, way away from here. And I don't mind. I like traveling, but also I love this country, and I want all of us to have the same country that I've had the ability to grow up in the last years.
Coach, we are being forced. They're going to call tech on us soon because we are holding you too long.
Timeout.
I hope that's no penalties.
But this has been good. I'd like to talk about it again. One day I'll get my book and I want y'all to read it, and we'll talk again.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot about this book. It better be coming. We're going to read it.
Well, yeah, it's going. We're like my wife said. You might have to have some of these people die before you release the book. It's not really bad. It's just they might not want you to say that. But I will not put anything in the book that when I get it written about them, I give it to them, and you read it. And, you know, if you think this will embarrass you or you don't want to, and I won't put it in. But most of them are going to be good about it.
It's going to be something.
Yeah, because it's mostly fun, but it's about character and it's about competition and it's about the opportunity to succeed. And you know, I don't know, somehow, some way in that book, you know, this country gives it. And I used to tell my players this country doesn't owe anybody in this country anything but one thing, and that's an opportunity to do what you want to do if you put your nose to the grindstone. I'd have never got to the Senate if I had not worked for it. I'd never been a head coach if I hadn't worked for it. Quit sticking your hand out for a handout. Look for a hand up, you know, and go out there and do it on your own, you know.
Coach, thanks for the opportunity to talk to you. I'm going to have a hand out to
Thank
shake
you.
your hand.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you for being
Thank you. Y'all been
today's
good.
elephant in the room.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening. Time for cookie credit, as promised, from Coach's Cookie Challenge. Tiffany made the oatmeal no-bake, the winning cookie. She also made the hard-to-pronounce and tongue-twisting salted caramel pretzel snickerdoodle. Taylor made the oatmeal chocolate chip, delicious. And Mrs. B made the white chocolate chip cookies. Thank you, Mrs. B. Also, thank you to everyone subscribing. You have the benefit of being notified when we come out with a new episode, so like and subscribe. We're just looking out for you. The Elephant in the Room is brought to you under the direction of U.S. Senator John Barrasso from Wyoming. We have a whole team behind us, including Arjun Modi, Carly Rapp, Elena Seiler, and many, many others. Until next time, this has been The Elephant in the Room.